So, I opened my notebook. My notebooks are usually my kids' scribble pages. I'm trying to finish them out. Hey, Bismillah. I have been asked to talk about Ihsan, and I think it's a good follow-up to what was discussed earlier in terms of balance, of tazkiyah and da'wah. And I just wanted to add my little 2 cents to what was said already. There's a nice saying, who said it, Sheikh Uthman, I think it was Mustafa Mashhur, he said, أصلح نفسك وادعو غيرك. You know, it's you fix yourself, right? Reform yourself, work on yourself, and at the same time, call others to this path. So there is particulars in this debate of what comes first and the order of things, but bottom line, it's a concurrent process, right? It's a concurrent process at the end of the day. So the subject of al-ihsan. This is quite a very. I'm talking about this subject from a very Quranic perspective, because it's very interesting when you look at the Quranic language and how the Quran talks about, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about ihsan, and in what aspects of it, of our lives that it relates to, and so on and so forth. But before we start that discussion, I want to mention the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that you're all aware of, and that is the hadith Jibreel. When Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam, he comes to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the form of a man, and he asks him these different questions, right? He asks him, what is Islam? What is Iman? And then he asks him, what is Ihsan? And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his answer is, الإحسان أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه يراك. That ihsan is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if you see him, and if you do not see him, know that he sees you. Right? Know that he sees you. So I want to start this discussion off with, well, what does that mean? What does that mean to you all, that hadith? So we understand the literal meaning of it. In a sense, even the literal meaning of it, there's some nuances to it. But what does that entail? Anybody can comment. I mean, I think you're all familiar with this hadith, so we don't have to go into to explaining it again. But again, the translation of it: to worship Allah as if He sees you, and if you cannot, to worship Allah as if you see Him, and if you cannot see Him, then know that He sees you. So what does that mean? What does that entail? What's the relationship between that and ihsan? So people spell it out for me. Yes.
It's like whenever you're doing an act of worship, it's to do it as if Allah is watching you do it, and kind of judging your intention, judging your actions as you do it.
Okay, good. Being very cognizant of what you do internally and externally, right? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching you. Anybody care to add to that? Good, very comprehensive answer. Yes.
It was to worship Allah as if He can see you, and if you cannot.
To worship Allah as if you can see Him.
Okay. So I was thinking as if like when you're in private, how you act in private or at home may be very different from how you act in public, and you know that. That there's no difference between, there should be a difference between those two, aspects of your life, that you should act the same at home and at.
Okay. I mean, it's a further inference from what's being said in the particular hadith, but that's definitely within the realm of, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees us at all times, whether you're in front of people or whether you're by yourself, right? Is that okay? Yes, sister.
To have full and constant taqwa.
To have full and constant taqwa.
So that you're always constantly thinking of Allah, and that you're always working to please Him, and always trying to actively stay away from what He says.
Okay, beautiful.
I see to worship Allah as if you can see Him. That's like, it's like the highest level, because if you're just saying prayer as an example, if you're just praying because I have to pray because it's the minimum that I have to do as a Muslim, then it's like you're not when we're in paradise, inshallah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the opportunity to look into his, nur, his face. And so, it's like if you can see that beauty, or if you're given the opportunity, as if you can see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, obviously you're gonna do like the thing because you love doing it, because you have that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then if you can't establish that relationship, then as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees you, so then you have this thing where it's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching me, therefore I must do like my bestest. It's like you still have that, it's like a little bit lower, but you still have that love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whereas if you're doing it just because, Arkan al-Islam comes in and it's like I have to pray, and I just need to pray. It's like,
Beautiful. Please take the
Sorry.
No, I'm not trying to say that. No, mashallah. Beautiful. Thank you. I shouldn't have made that comment, sister. I wasn't making fun at all. Wallahi, I was praising you in a good way.
I was gonna say that if you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and then you are able to see his displeasure at anything that you do, you'll be much less likely to do it because you don't want to see the disappointment in front of you.
Everybody's giving slightly different dimensions of it. It's very helpful to understanding the full picture.
So that's the first part, what Allah is seeing. It's like everything that you see, nature, people, everything that you see Allah. So you see Allah, it's not like you see Allah, but everything reminds you of Allah. So that's the first part. The second part, if you can't see things, the moment that you see, it's not as if like it's much like not out of fear, but as of love for Allah. That someone you love watching you, then you always try your best and perfect that.
The first comment you made is very interesting. In everything that you do, as if you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hand in every aspect of creation. Anybody else? Last commentary. Yes.
Maybe just a comment
Can you speak up a bit?
maybe a comment to add on to what sister was saying. It's as if Allah is almost tiny, yaqeen aspect. If you can see him, then instead of just iman,
I'm sorry?
instead of just iman having faith, knowing about it, but actually have yaqeen, almost as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is tangible and able to touch. And the sense of self-policing or self-awareness of what you're doing is by this tangible sense that Allah is there.
So different. There's a lot of depth to the statement of the Prophet ﷺ when he says that. But a couple of the main overriding things that we understand from that is just full consciousness, something that's having taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, full consciousness, ever awareness, full alertness, that you're always in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as you know. There's the story of the one boy. There was a sheikh and he gave his students some food and he says, go somewhere and eat this food where nobody can see you, right? And the one boy, he comes back and he didn't eat his food, and they say, what happened? So, well, there's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching you everywhere. So having that full consciousness, that full sense of mind. But then it translates that particular ihsan, and what we're really going to focus on in this discussion. That understanding of ihsan should have a translation into one's life, right? So we're going to talk about ihsan today from the standpoint of the difficult to translate in one or two words even, but that excellence, that perfection, that lifestyle of complete devotion to whatever it is we're doing, because ihsan can be in particular matters, right? So that devotion to whatever it is we're doing at any given time and doing ihsan in that particular action, that's what we're going to focus on. But this first part of the meeting has a very important relevance to the second part of the meeting, because you can have people, you understand what I mean by that? You can have people that are perfectionists, that do things with their full heart, their full mind, they give it their all. Maybe not even Muslim, maybe Muslim, whoever they are. But if there's not that consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tied to it, in other words, their path that they're walking in life is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's not connected to that particular action, is that ihsan in this particular understanding? It doesn't fit the full prophetic understanding, right? It may work for a technical understanding of ihsan, and somebody who's doing something with excellence, or another synonym that's used is itqan. Somebody's doing something and trying to do it in a perfect manner. But this concept of understanding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how everything that you do, you're doing ultimately for His sake, we have to keep that part in mind. But we're going to talk about the practical manifestations of ihsan in our lives, inshallah. So one of the ulama, he defined al-ihsan as فعل الإنسان ما ينفع غيره بحيث يصير الغير حسنا به. This is a nice definition, because he says that to ihsan is an action that somebody does to benefit someone else, and in that benefiting of someone else, he's making that person a better person, or he's bringing some benefit to that other person, right? So you're bringing hasan, you're bringing something good to that other person by your ihsan, right? If you all know Arabic language, you have ahsana yuhsinu, to bring good to someone else, right? So this concept of bringing good to someone else, that someone else, even from another standpoint, expanding your own self, bringing good further to your own self even. So, and the scholars, they say that al-ihsan is the highest station that a person can reach in his life, in his lifestyle. الإحسان من أفضل منازل العبودية لأنه لب الإيمان وروحه وكمال. That ihsan is the essence of the matter, right? That's the ultimate peak. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-kamalu lillah. Allah is perfect, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is perfect. None of us have the ability to reach that level, but at the same time, we do strive to be like, to takhalluq بصفات الله تعالى, try to emulate certain qualities or embody certain qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Somebody was talking about today, Brother Mujahid, about rahmah, right? And we try to embody that quality of rahmah in our own lives. That's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ultimate quality. But we also try to embody that. So perfection is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's quality. And certain things that we do, we try to do them to the best of our particular ability. So in a similar concept. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in the hadith that's related by Imam Muslim, إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَتَبَ الْإِحْسَانَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has prescribed ihsan in every single matter. In every single thing that you do. And then He gave a couple of examples. فَإِذَا قَتَلْتُمْ فَأَحْسِنُوا الْقِتْلَةَ. So when you kill, then kill in the best way. وَإِذَا ذَبَحْتُمْ, and when you slaughter, فَأَحْسِنُوا الذَّبْحَ. And so slaughter in the best way. Why do you think the Prophet ﷺ used these particular examples? Because they're quite stark examples to be used with this particular concept. So I was a couple of people's eyebrows raised when I said, when you kill in the best manner, right? Why did the Prophet ﷺ use these examples with the concept of ihsan? Anybody care to comment? Yes, sister.
Because to us that wouldn't really matter, because that's the end of their life. So it doesn't matter if they had any pain during the killing or the slaughter. So if if we have to be careful when doing that, that means we should be careful when we're dealing with somebody else, and we're still going to be living after that.
That's an interesting point. You guys hear that? That's an interesting point. Okay, anybody else? Yes.
Yeah, it shows us the extent to which ihsan can and should be applied, even when it comes to something like that, for example, torture.
Okay.
So attack, short of death is torture, essentially. So maybe it can show us the span of what ihsan can be.
Okay. Showing the range in matters of what this concept applies to. Is that what you're saying? I don't know if there's any ihsan in torture in particular. Although Americans are CIA and them are white. They do
Prevention of torture.
Right. Prevention of torture. Yes, sister.
And so these are two examples that this isn't the first thing you think of when you're talking about worship or ibadah. I think it's meant to encompass that, I mean, it's meant to convey that it encompasses everything, not just worship.
Good, mashallah, your minds are on. Everybody's on. They're looking into the text and trying to understand it. I like that. Yes.
I think similar to the end of life thing, it's also two things that sometimes people give less value to. Animals people don't really take care of as often or give a lot of value to, or your enemy, for example.
Good.
Why would you do something?
Good. I mean, it's the most brutal action, and maybe that's what you're trying to say, that you can do is to kill somebody. But even in that, do it and do it right. When you kill an animal, which many people don't, my kids used to say aminal. Now I'm saying it. Like all of them, they said that, all four of them. And he erased one of my kids from my existence. All four of them. They always said that aminal, and now I'm saying it. So in the killing, which is perhaps the most brutal action that can take place, and then dealing with animals, which some people don't even care about how they deal with them justly in a proper way. So and those are interesting points. And if you were to read the books of the explanation of hadith, I'm sure you would find all of these points. I didn't, but those are really good points that people brought up. So ihsan is this necessary component for a complete and transformative tarbiyah within the individual, right? So when we talk about the concept of tarbiyah, you cannot not talk about ihsan. Ihsan is that quality which is going to push someone to be as complete an individual as possible. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and as we mentioned, that trying to strive to be excellent in what we do, perfect in what we do, and whatever it is we do, is following the path of trying to embody this quality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Alladhi ahsana kulla shay'in khalaqa," the one that made to perfection everything that He created, right? And that's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sun'a Allah alladhi atqana kulla shay. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation, that He perfected in everything in its particular creation. So we are trying to strive to be godly in that particular sense, right? When we as Muslims say that, trying to be godly, that's an important English word actually, that you don't hear Muslims say that often, and I think it's acceptable to use in this particular context, trying to emulate the qualities of God when we do certain actions. That's what we mean as Muslims when we say to be godly in the things that we do. So on an individual level, it's very important for us to achieve a complete tawbiyah. And then on a societal level, it's very important too. For a societal transformation to happen in any particular society, there has to be ihsan in the individuals in the society and what they do. And so when we say, the individual, what are we talking about? And whatever it may be, I mean, you have different societies that excel in different things, right? So when you talk about excelling and exceeding standards and maximizing production and all of these things, if you use ihsan stripped of the godly essence of it, you have a place like, I don't know, like Japan, where they have an amazing work ethic, right? And their society has achieved a certain level of whatever it is in that particular aspect of life, manufacturing or whatever it may be, because they've, on a societal level, that striving to work as hard as they can to achieve, and so it comes across, right? So on the individual level for us as Muslims, and then on a societal level, the great scholar Ibn Taymiyyah, he says that this collective quality that transforms ihsan to every to every aspect of life, when a society ingrains that within itself, it will transform the whole society. So on all of those different levels. Now when you study the Quran, and this is very interesting, you find that Ihsan is has a very comprehensive nature to it. And so if you were to take, this is the individual, and these are your different spheres of, I don't know if spheres of influence works here, but these are the different worlds that your life intersects with. And if you look at the Quran, this is a very interesting dialogue that I found, that some of the scholars are able to pull out of the Quran, and how ihsan is important in individuals' lives and these different aspects of life that they deal with. So, for example, so when we say these concentric circles, you start with yourself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, in ahsantum, ahsantum li anfusikum. Right? When you do good, when you do ihsan, you're doing it to whom? Who's the first beneficiary? Yourself. Right? Yourself. So when I said earlier in the beginning, that ihsan and how it can be bring goodness to others, and that first person the first one that it brings good to is yourself, right? So this is the first level, and then you find the next level, the next circle, right? That your life deals with. Who's the first people that you come into contact with in this world? I'm sorry? Your mother and father. Your mother actually, right? And then your father. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say whenever it comes to dealing with our parents? وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ إِحْسَانًا. Right? وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. The few ayats that come as such, the scholars, they say something nice. They said if there was any better word that could have been used in the Arabic language with how your relationship should be with your parents, he would have used it. But ihsan is the highest level that you can achieve in terms of dealing with another person, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses that particular term when dealing with their parents. Conversely, on the other end, and this is just for knowledge sake, they also say that with your parents, if there was any less of a word that could be used with your parents, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have used it. So when Allah says, وَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ, you know, just the smallest word that can come out of your it's one syllable, and you know, if there was anything less than that, that existed in the language, Allah would have used it in terms of what we shouldn't say to our parents, right? And to me, like, this is a language thing. In English, we don't say that word, right? Unless you've been completely Arabicized, right? It's like saying, you know that little sound you make when you're upset with something? That's what is like, you know? So if there was anything less than that, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have used that word. So the range of dealing with your parents should be all the way up here, and it should never ever come anywhere even close to way down here, right? So it's always up at this top platform. So that's with your parent. And then after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذْ أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ لَا تَعْبُدُونَ إِلَّا اللَّهَ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا وَلِذِي الْقُرْبَى. So first yourself, then your parents, and then who? Your relatives, right? Again, what's the word that's used? Ihsan. In all of these particular situations. And then after that, وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينَ. And then, you know, those people that are struggling in society. And so, with yourself, your family, and then the general society around you, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala emphasizes when He talks about the general society, about that downtrodden, disenfranchised segment of society, that those people deserve your ihsan more than anybody else. Do it with everybody, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expresses it with those particular people, al-yatama wal-masakin, which is a beautiful expression, right? So us as Muslims, our number one concern always when we're dealing with others, when in societal issues, it's first dealing with people who don't have, right? Who don't have. And that's where our intersection with society should begin. So that's another lesson in and of itself. And just on a side note. And then, so, the circles keep going out. And then, if you look at the Quranic language, the word always used here in all of these ayat, al-ihsan. And then, when you go out even further, we read, for example, in Surah Al-Ma'idah, فَبِمَا نَقْضِهِمْ مِيثَاقَهُمْ لَعَنَّاهُمْ وَجَعَلْنَا قُلُوبَهُمْ قَاسِيَةً. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the next level of people is not people who you even have friendly relationships with, but people who are your enemy. People who you don't have a good relationship with. Even those people, look at the end of this particular ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَعْفُ عَنْهُمْ وَاصْفَحْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Which is very interesting. Even with that segment of society, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He still says that there's making a hint towards in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He loves the people of ihsan, even if it be at that level. And then, the last circle, and I'm sorry, this is quite a little academic, but I wanted you to understand, subhanAllah, the impact, because I think that we don't understand this concept, and even for me, this was very eye-opening to see it laid out like this in the Quran. Every aspect of life, ihsan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking for us to strive and achieve that. And then the rest of creation. So when you read, for example, Surah Al-A'raf, وَلَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ بَعْدَ إِصْلَاحِهَا وَادْعُوهُ خَوْفًا وَطَمَعًا إِنَّ رَحْمَةَ اللَّهِ قَرِيبٌ مِنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And do not spread corruption in the earth after everything is all right. Even in the rest of the creation and dealing with the environment and so on and so forth, that you should be people who deal with these things. So we get the point, right? Can we open the door? It's hot. Sorry for the brother. You guys are okay? The ones that are sitting right in front of it? If it gets cold, you can close. So we understand the point, right? Every aspect of life, if you analyze, you dissect the Quranic terminology and phraseology, you'll find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is emphasizing to us this point of trying to achieve ihsan with all of the different aspects or different circles that our life intersects with, which is subhanAllah, is very, very beautiful. And then, from another standpoint, ihsan, when you look at it, we talk highly in Islam for us as Muslims, and even in general society. This is the dialogue of the day, right? Justice, the concept of justice, and we take justice to be such a high, prominent value, objective goal that we're trying to achieve in society, right? Especially with all the things that have been taking place in America. Ferguson was kind of the center point, and that's still going on, that dialogue, very heavily. Justice, and justice and what that means to different segments of society and different societies and so forth. It's such a high ideal. But when you look at ihsan, it's actually another level. So think about the ayah that we hear all the time, right? Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُ بِالْعَدْلِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He orders us to emanate justice, to embody justice, to bring justice, but to also bring ihsan. So there's a nice dialogue that took place between the Khalifa Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, and he asked one of the scholars, his name was Muhammad ibn Ka'b al-Quradi. So he asked him, he says, Sifli al-adl. He says, tell me what adl is, what justice is. And he gives him this is a beautiful answer, and you should write this down if you're taking notes. He says, سَأَلْتَ عَنْ أَمْرٍ جَسِيمٍ. He says, you have asked about a great matter, right? Justice, that's a big thing you're asking about. So he said this, and he expresses it in a beautiful way. He says, كُنْ لِصَغِيرِ النَّاسِ أَبًا وَلِكَبِيرِهِمْ إِبْنًا وَلِلْمِثْلِ أَخًا وَلِلنِّسَاءِ كَذَلِكَ. He says, be to the youngest member of society like a father, right? When you see young people, be soft with them, be gentle with them, be to them like a father. And when you deal with the elder segments of society, be to them like a son, right? Treat them with respect as you should. They're your elders. And then he says, and when you deal with somebody at the same level as you deal with them as a brother. It's a beautiful expression, right? And then he says, and with women the same way. And with women the same way, on the same manner, based upon where you stand with them. And then he says, and he's described, remember, he's talking about justice right now. Al-adl. وَعَاقِبِ النَّاسِ عَلَى قَدْرِ ذُنُوبِهِم. And he says, when somebody does wrong, you recompense them at the same level. وَلَا تَضْرِبَنَّ فِي غَضَبِكَ صَوْتًا وَاحِدًا فَتَكُونَ مِنَ الْعَادِينَ. He says, and do not deal with people when you're angry, right? Don't try to resolve matters or deal with situations in a state of anger. And if you do that, you're going to cross the bounds. You're not going to be a person of justice, right? So justice only comes when you're level-headed, when you know, when you are able to properly deal with stuff. You're not mad about stuff. And he says ذاك وصف العدل. That's justice. But ihsan is another level beyond that. So this is important for us to understand. We understand that justice is a high ideal. Ihsan is even more than that, right? And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala constantly pushing and prompting us to be people of ihsan. So Sayyidina Ali, radiallahu anhu, he relates from the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he says to Ali, he says, أَلَا أَدُلُّكَ عَلَى أَكْرَمِ أَخْلَاقِ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. He says, should I not, or can I guide you to, what is the best of characteristics in this life and in the next life? And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says, أَن تَصِلَ مَنْ قَطَعَكَ وَتُعْتِي مَنْ حَرَمَكَ وَذَاكَ هُوَ الْإِحْسَانِ. So ihsan, he says, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, is that to connect with people that have disconnected with you, right? People have broken ties with you, and you're going above and beyond. So justice is point for point, but ihsan is somebody's wronged you and you're going above that. And to give a person who has withheld from you, right? So you see the difference, the levels? Brother, stand up for a minute. Some people are falling asleep. Put your arms up. Stretch for a minute. But not if you're old. Before, sitting up front of the circles, right? And how ihsan relates to these different aspects of your life. But there's another way we can look at it too. And again, this is just to look at the Quranic beauty of how it discusses concepts. In this particular case, we're talking about the concept of the ihsan. Another, so this is us, each one of us or any one of us. Ihsan relates to the different centers in our life, but also relates to the different things that we deal with in our life. So this is very interesting. Again, the Quranic language. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, for example, when dealing with patience, right? وَاصْبِرْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And have patience, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never make in vain the reward of those who do good, those who do ihsan. So the concept of sabr, right, of patience, everything you do in your life, any difficulties that you may have, bear it with patience. Why? Because patience is in and of itself a part of ihsan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, the concept of qisas. In Islam, we have capital punishment, but it's different than capital punishment as to how it plays out in the West. There's much more justice that fits into our particular model. And without going into the details of it, but just to know that al-ihsan relates to criminal justice even. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, for example, فَمَنْ عُفِيَ لَهُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ شَيْءٌ فَاتِّبَاعٌ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَأَدَاءٌ إِلَيْهِ بِإِحْسَانٍ. So even when dealing with the family of the person who's been lost, and all of these things related to this particular concept, criminal justice, do it with ihsan. When it comes to divorce, لا جناح عليكم إن طلقتم النساء. The end of this ayah, حقا على المحسنين. When it comes to divorce, do it with ihsan, right? When it comes to jihad and struggle of any sort, what's the last ayah of Surah Al-Ankabut? Ayah that we hear all the time. Kufar. Yes. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Right? And those who struggle or who strive for our sake, and we will guide them to our paths. And Allah, verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He loves whom? He loves the muhsinin, people of ihsan. So even in dealing with jihad. So, and I can go on, and I will for a moment, just to give you the picture, but in all of these different things that we do in our life, ihsan is the level, is the benchmark. This is the bottom line point that we're trying to strike home here, is ihsan. Mediocrity is never what we as Muslims are striving to do, to achieve in our lives, and whatever it may be. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whatever you do, whatever it may be, the Prophet ﷺ, he tells us, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ إِذَا عَمِلَ أَحَدٌ مِنْكُمْ عَمَلًا أَنْ يُتْقِنَهُ. That that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves when one of you does a particular action, that he does it with itqan. He does it with his, trying to do it as best as he possibly can, or she possibly can. Right? So the point being, in every part of our life, that's the benchmark. That's the level that our deen, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator, is trying to pull us off of our base levels of our base desires, our base lusts, that are really holding us to the ground. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is prompting us and telling us the importance of this concept, because it's with this level of giving whatever we do in our life, giving it that seriousness, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is over us, is watching us, is going to reward us for what we do. We give it our all. And we can talk about, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He talks about for example, even in terms of economic justice, وأنفقوا في سبيل الله ولا تلقوا بأيديكم إلى التهلكة وأحسنوا إن الله يحب المحسنين. And spend for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He loves the muhsineen. So when you spend, when it comes to giving in the path of Allah. There's a beautiful ayah when it comes to repressing anger. الذين ينفقون في السراء والضراء والكاظمين الغيظ والعافين عن الناس والله يحب. Just finish it for me, even if you don't know the ayah. Al-Muhsinin, right? Allah loves the people who do good. There's a nice story that's related about this particular ayah. I forget who it is. One of the family members of one of the sons or grandsons of Sayyidina Ali, radiallahu anhu. And he had a servant who was pouring the wudu for him, right? For he could make wudu. And they didn't have faucets back then, right? When you guys are stuck and you don't have anything, it's easier when somebody takes the bottle and does it for you, right? So, I think it was a she. She's pouring it for him, and the bottle, it breaks. It's made of clay or whatever, and it falls and it breaks. Right? Say the person, I don't remember who it was. Anybody remember? Zayn al-Abidin taqriban, I think. So he starts to get upset, right? He's trying to make wudu, get ready probably for salah, and then she drops the jar, right, of water, and maybe there's no more water around. I don't know this full situation. So she sees that he starts to get mad. So she starts saying this ayah, says, "Wal kadhimin al-ghayb." So his anger like calms down, right? This is how the righteous work. This is how Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu is described as kana waqafan 'inda al-Quran. You know, whenever they would hear the Quran, like whatever negative they had inside of themselves is just gone, goes away, right? As soon as they hear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's words, they're reminded, they have no issues. So he starts to get upset. She quotes this beginning part of the ayah. He just, he's cool, he's calm. And then she's worried that, he's still upset. She says, وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. And he says, I forgive you, right? I forgive you. And then she says to him, وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And he says, I free you for the sake of Allah. Smart lady, right? She drops something and she ends up being freed because of that. So this is ihsan. That action of this particular person is ihsan. And on and on and on. I mean, if in terms of dealing with people of other faiths, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تُجَادِلُوا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. And don't engage in disputation with the people of the book, except with that which is better. Ahsan. And on and on. The point being that ihsan is something that we are striving to achieve in all parts of life. Now, the practical end of that, how do we do that? Ways that we embody that in our school, in our work, in our family dealings, whatever else it may be. I mean, that's a big discussion, right? In terms of, that's really, those are like workshops like your 7 habits of success and those kind of things are going to teach you the particulars, right, of how to achieve that level of interaction. I'm giving you a very base level, but the main point I wanted to drive home, and I hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala implants this in my heart first, is this is always what we're striving to achieve and to get. So when we are, when we're at home and our parents are not happy with us because of some mediocrity within us, because of some level of not fulfilling certain responsibilities that we're not fulfilling, then we need to look at ourselves. Wait a second, I'm not reaching this level of ihsan. And there's one of the ulama, he described ihsan as something to the effect of that others will see that you are a person of ihsan. In other words, if somebody sees some certain shortcomings in yourself, then you haven't reached that level of ihsan, right? You haven't reached that level. So particularly, okay. So we're going to take a couple of questions because Ada just told me we only have 5 minutes left. So let's take a few questions in terms of, I didn't get to get into some of the, how do we deal with it on our day-to-day life. But maybe people have practical questions or comments on that particular. Yes, sister.
Can you clarify, we discussed ihsan, but can you clarify the difference between ihsan and itqan?
Okay. I think, so when you use ihsan in the same sentence or in the same discussion as Islam or Iman, you're talking about this level of difference in your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this deeper connectedness and consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you're talking about those in the same way. When you talk about it outside of that, depending upon the context, it's going to, so they can be used interchangeably in certain particular scenarios. There's a lot of words used in the Sunnah and in the Quran that are have the similar meaning. So the Prophet ﷺ, he would talk about it, he talked about in this hadith we mentioned, itqan. When he talks about wudu, sometimes the Prophet ﷺ, he uses the word فَأَحْسِنِ الْوُضُوء, do it and do it with ihsan. But he also says أَبْلِغُ الْوُضُوء, and also you find أَسْبِغُ الْوُضُوء. إِسْبَاغ, إِبْلَاغ, ihsan, itqan, they can all be used as synonyms depending upon the context that they're used in. There probably are some other very slight, nuanced meaning differences between them that I may not be able to give, but yes.
Just so that you can complete what you're trying to say, what other practical ways apply?
What are the practical ways? I think part of this has to do with the self-introspection. There's a muhasabah that perhaps has to go into this, right? Where in my life am I falling short? What am I not doing to my potential? Whatever that, again, that's an individual conversation, right? So when we look at we take account of ourselves, حاسبوا أنفسكم قبل أن تحاسبوا. Take account of yourselves and see where you fall short, and then to look and strive and see, well, where do I need to be better, and where am I doing good, and where can I be even better than that, and where am I doing better, and I can where can I be the best that I can be. I mean that's probably the essence of that's the starting point. That's the starting point. I don't know if anybody has any some of our other seniors, elders in here, Dr. Ihsan, Dr. Ahmed, or Brother Nazim, sort of practical looks at that, how do we look at Ihsan and then
So does that entail finding, say, I think one stuff behind the bedroom is classically when you find your crack in the old wall and you fill that crack. Almost as in to be a master of something that you need to be a master of. So should we be finding a certain thing that we're probably good at and to master it and then provide to the world?
good question. That's a good question. I like that. Yes, definitely. We all want to find our specialties in terms of perhaps our professional life, right? And I think that's one thing. And so then you can have ihsan of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already given you a certain talent or skill level at, right? And you can take that and take it to a whole other level, right? And be on the top of your, whatever it is you do, right? Your profession or whatever. I think that's definitely one aspect of it. Perhaps in the professional realm, but I think just in a general life realm. Just to see. So you're talking about certain good that's already imbibed within yourself, and taking that all the way to the extreme, to the extreme good. That's one aspect. Another aspect would be just in all of your different aspects of who you are, in terms of your ibadah, in terms of, so when we talk about ihsan, just like when we talk about anything else in Islam, when we talk about ibadah, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, this general concept of ibadah is something that relates to all aspects of our life, right? Not only what we call the ibadah of salah and siyam and stuff. That's part of it. We're seeking ihsan in that, with our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And maybe we didn't mention that part in the whole piece, because we talked about ourselves in the other sentence. I didn't mention our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's a good point. But then that's the vertical relationship with Allah, and then the horizontal relationships that we share with other people, seeking ihsan in that as well.
Yes.
You're asking me?
No. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. May Allah bless you for this great presentation. And you touched on the point that I was going to talk about a little bit, because I didn't want to leave this session without bringing it up, which is what we Muslims, and especially what we as mass, what we think, and we take the concept of ibadah to mean what? What is ibadah for us? When the Prophet ﷺ says, أَن تَعْبُدَ اللَّهِ, what is he referring to? Can you give me an answer? What is he referring to? أَن تَعْبُدَ اللَّهِ. From this hadith, the first sentence of this segment of the hadith. What does it mean?
Any action we do in our lives, whether it's
And
actual worship like prayer or even
it's everything. Okay, I'm standing here, I'm worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or potentially, right? Not if my niyyah is somewhere else, something negative, then I'm not worshipping Allah. I could be collecting sins when I'm saying these things, right? But if I'm saying these things for the right intention, then I'm worshipping Allah. If I'm going to work, if I'm driving, if I'm entertaining my family, if when I'm working, when I'm studying, when I'm having fun, when I'm watching a movie, when I'm doing anything that is permissible, that is ibadah if I have the right intention. So the Prophet ﷺ says, "And ta'bud Allah," which means you go about life. This is everything we do in life. كأنك تراه, as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as if you can see Him, and it always occurs to me when you're doing, when you're sitting there working, whatever your job is, whether you're a cashier or an employee somewhere, you're sitting, and then the boss comes by. What do most people do? Sit up straight, work, have a smile, So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is expecting us to be in this mind, in this state of mind all the time. So I'm doing this, I'm helping this person cross the street. It's an act of ibadah, and that's why I have to do it with ihsan, because the Prophet ﷺ says, now you do it as if, not as if, for certain that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking at you. Allah alam. So that's and you help, mashallah, greatly in pointing from the Quran, because if someone would say, no, ibadah is only acts of worship, and you start arguing in this one, then if you brought up all this beautiful evidence that you presented, Sheikh Suhail, that ihsan is infiltrating everything in the Quran, from dealing, like you said, I'm not going to repeat it. So what you said is actually, it could be used as a proof for that comprehensiveness of the concept of ibadah and the concept of ihsan.
I believe this last point, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Al-jaza'ul ihsani illa al-ihsan. Right? The Mufassirin, they said a lot of nice things about this particular ayah. Is not the reward for ihsan other than ihsan. So, and this is a nice, I like this particular tafsir. It's the most direct tafsir, but I like this tafsir. They say that ihsan in this dunya is you're saying la ilaha illallah, right? And living by it. And living by it, I would add to that, right? Living by it, by embodying the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ in your life, right? That's the first ihsan. And then the ihsan that we get from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of that is what? Al-Jannah. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those who live by ihsan, so that we achieve the ihsan that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised us.